We're live from the Electric Greenhouse and the NFT project on October 21st, 2022. The reason I want to say that and get that memorialized is because I think we're doing something historic. I mean, not on the grand scale of, rebuilding America or fighting the Russians in Ukraine, but in terms of this new way of thinking about the art world, utility, Bitcoin, and NFTs, of course, being the source of it. I think that I want to introduce Vakashin and Dylan to this conversation because they're the ones who started me thinking this way, instigating this idea. I wasn't reticent to do it. I just didn't know what you're talking about. And when I eliminated the thinking about how it's made and started thinking about what it does, and freed myself up to think that way and let you guys do how it's made, it became something I felt I could participate in. And then it's been a process of, 8 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, starting off with calendars, simple things, ideas, small sketches. Everything I thought I did was an NFT because I was trying to elevate the incidental, everything of me, everything of my ego my tissues became NFTs. Because that's kind of how they were purported to be. You can make anything and make money on an NFT. You can make a Bored Ape. You can make anything into it. You can make a squiggle into an NFT. You can make a worm.
That happened.
It happened.
Ridiculous money for squiggles.
And the truth is I get why it was important to happen. Because it was disrupting. It was going to say, eat this. I'll see you in hell. Fuck you, big shot artist. I'm going to pay $1 million for something so absurd. It's not a Picasso. It's not being told what to buy. It's just what I want to fucking buy. Thank you. And because I made all that money on crypto, so I'm at the table with the house's money. So I'll roll 888s, whatever the hell. I'll go for double odds. Because if I lose it, I just made another $1 million next week. And that's what the run was. And then the public was going, geez, those are barbarians. They're knocking down the doors. They're just not doing the rules up right. They shouldn't be making that kind of money. And then we found out I was finding them to be Paris Hilton types who just wanted to jet set around and have yachts. So I found myself not wanting to participate because they embarrassed me. So I want to thank you two guys for introducing me to how to do this, how to get in here. So, Vakashin, start off. Tell me how you thought that this should happen. I mean, why me, and how did you?
Well, I've seen your art over the years, and I've always been a fan and knew that anything that you worked on was creative, cool, and unique in a way. And learning about NFTs, crypto over the past 5-6 years, I instantly thought of you to be an NFT creator because of your art and how you could apply it to different blockchains and really preserve your art. One way that I looked at it is NFTs are a legacy play because we make the assumption that these will be around for 1,000 years. So that gives access to generations and generations and generations to have that content.
Yeah, well, art doesn't last thousands of years. I mean, it's paper corrupts.
Right.
Fades.
Exactly. So in the digital world, the infrastructure is built out already for you to input your content, which will then be carried out through the blockchain because the transaction is on a ledger that will be there.
Yeah.
Dylan, let me introduce you, Dylan. Dylan came in with Vakashin as the creative who took over digitizing and cleaning up these images from these artifacts, roughed up artifacts, and making them into brilliant, beautiful NFTs. So I wanted to introduce you first because got to remember, nobody knows who we are until we start talking about this now. This is our first conversation with that world. We've been together forever, fighting it out, working it out, crying about it, bitching about it, and creating a team. and a family and a community. That's truly what I mean. I want to get to that point before I let you go. It's kind of important when I hit this. This community thing is very real with this medium. It is not like anything else I've ever been involved with, except for my hopeful. And hopeful doesn't even have the range of intimacy in terms of having multiple images and experiences like this. I needed a collaboration, a team to get me here, and then that grows outside as well. So community is where we are. We're kind of a family. We fight a lot. We argue a lot like families do, but we have a resolution for the future. Like Vakashin said, pull the lens back and look at the big picture. Dylan, I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
really
no.
get in. Let's just keep. I want to memorialize everything because that's pieces we've got to remember to say.
Yeah, I've been a content creator for almost a decade, and I always knew that something was missing because I knew the content I was creating was helping the businesses in perpetuity as long as that content was online. I experienced posting photos and having them downloaded millions of times and never being compensated for it. And then this technology, which Vu and I were envisioning before it even happened while we were in the trenches back in like 2017, like what if even a JPEG or a video could create this with the right infrastructure, create revenue. And you know, the years passed and we watched the NFT boom happen, and now we're really focused on utility. And like, that's what content was always about for me, was the utility and how it was going to help a business. So this opportunity, you know, I met you at Cove Street 3 years ago, and then Vu happened to be, you happen to know Vu, and it all kind of fell into place. All of our skill sets converged, and here we are today.
Yeah, like most things that just happen, aren't just serendipity, but it's about allowing yourself to let things happen. So once you kicked me into thinking along those lines of freeing up what I thought was a lesser art of mine, the doodle, the drawing, the sketches, my neurotic drawings, once you recognize those as having some value and a narrative and a storyline, because I have 22 years of calendars,
Right.
12 months each, 30 to 31 days on every one of them, full of imagery that I've OCD, driven, drawn on, and when my kids were born, when I had toothaches, when I had to go to the hospital or fix a tire on my car or whatever, or celebrate in the sad days, good days, bad. I've got an inventory of my life for 22 years that I kept personally I kept it for my kids, because someday I'll be gone and they'll be able to go through and see what the hell crazy dad was doing then in some way. But when you elevated that to an idea of an art form, it really turned me on, because I knew that was always an important part of my creative thinking. It was just never considered important. Never could be shown. What do you do with just a doodle? It's just a doodle. Well, that kind of gets you upset, you know. You're just a character actor. You're just a whatever, you know. It became elevated, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah. You know, right as I figured out and indulged into NFTs, I knew it would be a place for you to be able to showcase your work that you've already created and new work to come. And when I first saw your calendars, I was just inspired because of all the uniqueness and creativity within each day, and it was all authentic. And going back to NFTs, that's in tying in utility. It's a way to create an authentic community, and it just all made sense. It clicked for me. So I kind of kept calling you, nagging you, and saying, hey, Charlie, this might be a really good idea for you to explore a new medium, a new way for you to potentially showcase your art.
Yeah, and it hit really at an interesting time. Post-COVID, my art world shrunk all of a sudden, dealing my relationship to galleries.
Right.
I'm far from New York. I mean, I go there, I have a studio there, but I'm not as close to it as I used to be. New York's not quite the same. I don't have the the same relationship with my gallery world and my collector world. I started selling less.
Right.
And the Hopeful Project took off. And then the day I had this narrative in my mind, and I drove down to New York with my wife, and she had a friend who worked with Outfront Media, which are electronic billboards. And I said, call Lisa, see if she can get me a billboard. And Lisa called back. I have one at the exit of the Lincoln Tunnel. And we sent her a JPEG, and it pops up, and then the whole world changes. Before that, I was traditional Western European thinking artist. I made things out of bricks, rocks, sticks, stones, whatever. They were things. My hopeful pieces were made out of aluminum, welded, wired, sculpted, so to speak. They were installed by guys with cigars and hard hats on cranes and bolted into buildings. It was all that bolting, stickings, making physical stuff that I care about and thought was art. Boom, this thing comes out of the middle of a dark sky overlooking the Jersey City marshlands, and it looked like a landscape of joy. It was just transferred. People honked their horns. It was unbelievable. And then I got it. It doesn't have to be that much labor, Charlie. You're just used to making it hard. This was not about hard or easy. This is about what's the message that transferred.
Sure.
Then I was sold. Then I started redrawing. I've been drawing for 7-8 months every day. I'm a madman. I'm trying to make them better for the NFT. And I realized it wasn't at the beginning where I thought anything I could draw was going to be my ego, that you had to, NFTs would elevate the low, incidental, kind of cynical piece of art, forcing people to like it because it was an NFT. The NFT wasn't the end. The art was coming in. The art had to be good. I had to elevate my game. I had to become a better artist. I had to think clearer. I had to make better work.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to go back, the key, right, the treasure of the digital world is that once you do have your JPEGs, now there's no barriers. You don't have to drive to New York to go to a gallery. You don't have to go visit. There's access to your own marketplace. People all over the world have access with no barriers to your NFTs.
Yeah, this is new. I have a mailing list. It used to be a Rolodex. I go back that far, where you had your mailing list, your audience, your collecting base, your basis interested in maybe buying, your museums you try to reach to, these kinds of uphill climbs to reach people constantly. This just leveled the field. I said to somebody, what can you imagine the art world without walls, without distance, without limestone facades and brick and giant columns and all the artifice that makes it look so important, large stairs going up with all kinds of giant things, inviting giant flower pots and stuff, making you feel like you're coming into a place you better worship rather than it worshiping us. All of a sudden, we have no gatekeepers. We have no walls. That's a pretty crazy world.
Yeah, the technology is really a disruptor, and it allows creators to really put their best work out and let the market react on a global scale.
Yeah, the thing that just came up with, I'm an old dad. I'm 76, and I've got a 17-year-old daughter and a 23-year-old son. One thing that probably made this possible for me at my age to do this, because I remember Pokemon cards playing with my son. Mm-hmm. I remember digital games. It wasn't like I raised my kids 40 years ago. I'm raising my kids in the contemporary world, so I understand why people want to trade, why they want a game. Yeah, that's it. I just got it. The reason I'm in it because I'm an old dad who had to play Pokemon with my son and trade cards, and I got it. I mean,
yeah, you understand us because you raised one of us.
Yeah,
and I think it's really special that you understand because it's a new medium to you, right? Mm-hmm. The way that you're creating this art, you could have just stuck to what you know and what you do very well and what's led you to massive success. But you were willing to pioneer, try something new, and believe in the technology and get us to where we are today.
Yeah, well, I love going into something I don't know. I mean, I don't mind walking into something I don't know. Hell, I don't know if there's God. I don't know what's going to happen after I die. I'm just curious. I mean, I got to live through this. I didn't mean to make it so heavy, but we just went to a meeting with a bunch of crypto guys. They were talking about things. I mean, they may have been talking about Hebrew, Greek analog. But what I did get, what I sensed was energy, community, commitment, humor, interest. And they were so decent to me when I revealed myself as an NFT person, walking into their world with my limited knowledge of their techno terms, but celebrating that that's a potential. That was cool. And how often do I allow myself at my age to do something I don't know? Because nobody wants to feel stupid. I mean, my phone makes me feel stupid. My car's smarter than me. My TV's smarter than me. My kids certainly are. So, but I want to get out in the world. I mean, I don't mind feeling, I need to know.
The reaction of that group of people of when you started speaking was one of, I was thinking about it a lot. First of all, it was refreshing. It was like a fresh gust of air came into the room and everybody was able to take a deep breath. And it was really like, oh my goodness, this person from another generation is listening to us,
believes in us,
and is participating. And the elegant way that you describe why this works for you and how you see it working and how you can leverage it to benefit your community. I read rooms pretty well, and it was like a relief because that's something our generation is constantly dealing with. Is we grew up with all this technology being developed. We were first adopters. Our generation was the first people who grew up with chat rooms, and we were communicating, and then it was Instagram. But we also experienced what life was like without it. So we understand our parents and we understand our grandparents, but they typically are very resistant to understanding what we grew up in the expanse of the internet being plugged into us and how we grew up being aware of how other people our age were growing in other countries because we were watching all of their content and understanding them and having huge swells of empathy. So you speaking that other night, that's how I felt when you first, started learning more about the tech and being able to speak on it. It was so awesome to watch everybody else experience you for the first time.
Yeah, I think Dylan said it totally right. When you pioneer, when you use new technologies, when things are going to change the way things already are, there's a lot of stigma with pioneering because some people don't like change. I think what we've put together here, what Charlie's creating, the amount of production energy and focus that he's allocating towards this project, everything that Dylan's doing, we're in a really special place. And the utility that we'll be able to apply to help the community that we actually live in, because we're growing it on an organic scale, starting here in Portland, Maine, it's really going to be an NFT collection that benefits the state. And we're doing something profound in a way that Maine hasn't seen yet.
Yeah, I think it's important to say we're working with artists, me as well as other artists, taking fine art into the NFT world. This is the difference. We're not using computers to generate image. We're using brains and hands and ideas and textures of Western European traditional thinking of art.
Right. Charlie's not on his computer coding 800 tigers.
No, you wouldn't want that. Neither would I. I mean, I'd rather drive a truck.
Yeah.
Really seriously.
So the art is real, very real emotion, real thinking from you, and then goes through a digitation process by Dylan, which makes the final product.
And it's so hard for me to give up the object thinking, the object being the value, not the message. The object being the thing I made has to be, you have to give up and have faith in the ether of the nothing of it, that the message is as important, if not more important, than the object. Now, these things aren't drawings anymore. They're artifacts, I call them. They're where the thing got started, the thing being the image, the message, whether it's the lighthouse, the sinking ship, the sharks, and the light fish, or the cactus and the skulls. Those are just the words for them. Yeah. But I want to go to something really quick, really important, guys. This is important, age-wise, because I have a real generation, a big generation between you. So it's unique that I'm here working with you. That generation, your father's generation. So I could be your grandfather. So that's what I meant by the leap in generation. And understanding what I was talking about by understanding this because of playing video games. I didn't play, but I also had to participate with 6 and 7-year-old boy while he did his games because they were important to him. And for me to dismiss his games was devaluing my son's time and his interest. So I'd watch him kill 800 zombies. I'd watch these kinds of games. And we played Mario's Luigi's Mansion, Haunted Mansion, over and over again until we saw every part of it. But if I was there in the room with him, he felt connected to me, and I valued what he did. So, and the Pokemon became important too. And then, so when it came to this, what I realized happens with fathers and parents and children, we say to our children, it's time to give up the things of your youth and go be serious now. In other words, lose all that stuff. It's not relevant. That stuff is meaningless. All the time you're invested in that passion, those are games. This is life. Go get yourself a job. Grow up. And that is taking away your youth. And you guys, it's important to you to have all that connected. When I was a kid, playing ball wasn't important. If I was going to play football or baseball, that was game. Until I made utility out of it because I was a good enough football player to get a college scholarship. That's utility from a game. But that doesn't happen often for anybody. But a very important thing I want to remember here, this is coming up to, it's kind of moving. I remember my dad, who was a Depression-era kid, he was raised in depression, went to the backyard and picked up a ball and a bat and a glove and played baseball with me. He validated what I enjoyed so much just coming out to do that with me. He never rode a bike. He didn't come from that time. But to come out into the yard and do something with me I was passionate about meant a lot. So in some ways, there's a reference here for me in terms of jumping in this world with everybody, with you guys. My kids are into it. They understand what I'm talking about. So I feel connected. So that could be innately a passion of mine where I'm feeling so strongly about wanting to stay connected to this. Is that cool?
Yeah, it keeps you young.
Yeah, well, everybody wants to, feel relevant, and if you can produce and feel relevant, why not?
And justify my children's interests. I mean, validate their interests. Absolutely. That's what I mean. Validate them.
Absolutely.
Because people want to trade Pokemon cards till they're 80. Okay, it's not just some fat geek in the basement eating Pat's Pizza. It's like that's marginalizing people. And my generation's done it. Donald Trump said, it's just a fat guy in the basement doing it. And it's a stupid way to see this. When I went to that meeting, that wasn't just a bunch of geeks sitting leaving their mom's garage, and going. These were young entrepreneurs.
Oh yeah, yeah, multiple very successful entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
that built their foundation here in Portland, which that's where so many people are quick to dismiss Portland as an entrepreneurial hub, and there's been a lot of efforts over the past 15 years. I remember going into USM and looking at Portland, and nobody wanted to be there. And I was like, this was like before the craft brew scene. This was before the fine dining scene. This was before the facelifts and the hotels on Commercial Street.
People were looking for a way to get out of Portland, where now people are looking to get into Portland.
Yeah, I told somebody the other night, I said, when I was a junior in high school in Lewiston, Auburn, when we were there, by our junior year, we weren't talking what colleges we're applying to next year. We're talking about how far do we have to travel to get a job. Can my uncle get me at Pratt & Whitney in Hartford? Can my other brother, who's working with his uncle down in New Groton, Connecticut, get you a pipe fitting on a sub shop? These were real stories. Can my Aunt Yvonne get me into the mill? Can somebody get me in a shoe shop? You're talking about jobs because you needed the money. Because as soon as you grew up, they needed the bed. You had to go. Now, I don't want my kids to live like that. I prefer this life much more, that we could talk about what college I go to, or if I don't go to college because I'm smart enough to think I can do it on my own. I appreciate that too. And I'll become an entrepreneur. As long as you pay your goddamn rent, son, I don't mind. Whatever you want to do, just call it follow your bliss, they call it. Now, here I am finding myself, renewing myself and following my bliss. Because I like not knowing everything. It makes me a better artist. It makes me more curious. It makes me open doors. It makes me get up earlier. It makes me think. It makes me want to be better. This NFT thing has driven me in a way that I never expected at this stage of my life. Instead of thinking I know everything, I want to know more. I didn't know that community went and met there in that old bike shop. Mm-hmm. I drove by it. Now I feel when I drive by it, I feel part of it. I wonder where other points of lights are going on. When they talked about a creative economy in the 80s, that's a word they gave for artists and communities. The creative economy was you paint your pictures and get a job. Mostly we're going to have art fairs on once every Friday, first Friday. The restaurants are going to make all the money. You're going to be the entertainment. We're like dancing bears. And everybody else made the money. The artists did. They provided the entertainment. But this truly is the creative economy. I'm connecting with people who are entrepreneurs with wallets and purses, who spend money, who are interested. And that puts me in a different level than waiting for somebody to buy a picture.
The open market aspect of it brings in, as one of the individuals at the meeting was talking about how it allows not just the artist to participate, but the sales guy, the marketing guy. It allows us to tie in all these different people within a community that actually builds an economy rather than just being like a service provider or a gesture. It makes people be able to make something out of themselves through art.
Because they're invested in it personally. I mean, who's invested in, I don't know, Goodyear tires? I mean, you didn't like the tire, but you got to sell it for the rest of your life. Whatever. You got to be kidding me. Yeah. I mean, it's just a tire's a tire. I mean, I got a good tire. But you know what I'm saying? What a whole life. People spent their whole life making Fords. Their whole life. I have a friend who spent his whole life as a lawyer. Didn't even, at the end of his life, goes, I don't know if I wanted to do that. No, that's not okay. That's not really the contemporary world. I'd rather see you fail. I'd rather fail, which I have multiple times, and get up and go and go and go. Because we're a measure of not what we succeeded at. It's what we failed at. I mean, it's just hard to handle, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
So the cool part about the blockchain is like it doesn't really matter what your background, your expertise is. You can apply it and bring value to a blockchain, and you plug into it, and whatever way you can contribute, you will receive back through the systems, through the infrastructure, with whatever project that you're really focusing on.
Well, there's a problem here too, which I'm confronting. I'm all full of enthusiasm in life, but I got to start selling more of these things, reaching my audience. It drives me crazy because this is a beast to feed. Let's face facts. This thing needs a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. This is a big, big, big field full of potential. And you could lose sleep trying to figure out how to hit that market, this market. So I'm going to memorialize this by saying this is we finally forged ourselves a community and working together, but we've got a lot of work ahead to do. And that's my biggest fear of how can I grow it? How can I continue to grow it and grow it and grow it? That it needs, because this thing needs to grow. If I sold 30 paintings at my show, I'd be very happy. Mm-hmm. I sold 30, I'm not happy. I want to sell 90 and then 900. It's right. It's exponentially, growth. And I feel like one of those celebrities who has to keep doing something, even if it's stupid, just to get in the press. I see why people do sex tapes. It's dumb. You do anything you can to get somebody to talk about you. It's like fucking nuts, right? You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Like, we're definitely seeing it happen now because it's an attention economy now. And so I think, however, our integration with various nonprofits and I think, and then the infrastructure along with the NFT project and how we can set it up will create this rejuvenating effect where we'll start to see our activity doing art and sharing art begin to directly impact the community around us. It's an uphill. We're pushing boulders uphill, but the more people that we bring on, the more people who understand the vision, the mission, and participate, it it grows exponentially.
Right. And Dylan, I think what you're saying is totally accurate. And Charlie, what we've been talking about for weeks and weeks now is utility. So our focus is in totally the right place to have this growth continue, for us to impact the community in positive ways, and to have your art go prolific in the digital world, right? So everything that we're doing now is preparing us for that next step.
Yeah, it took me a few minutes to understand utility. I understood the giving part, the making, access, and giving something. I get it. It's part of my language now when I talk about art. I expect it to happen to everything I make, have a utility component. It's not in the gallery world. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I was. That's one thing I wanted to ask you. It's a bit different to look at how you create art and how it's going to live on, right? Because of that utility aspect of it.
And what people feel about their purchase. I mean, somebody went and bought a painting of mine, and I said, okay, that's $10,000, and we need $1,000 more to give to United Way. They go, why would I do that? Because I'm building utility in it. Well, then he'll go, I don't want to do that. I said, well, you got to do that. It's the only way I work it. So 10% of that has to go to a nonprofit or to help kids out or something. So then he'd go, if he was smart, he'd go, oh, I'll put up 500, you put up 500. I said, well, then we're negotiating. There's energy there. That's what I mean by playing the Pokemon game. We're trading, we're talking, we're negotiating. The health of this thing is in the air it brings in. The atmosphere, the NFT is so healthy, so full of idea and potential and creativity. The NFT is allowing me and to talk to my collector in a whole different way than I ever did because of the utility aspect. Rather than saying you take it all and I take it all, we could leave something on the table. I told my kids, when they're growing up, you got to play with your toys, but you got to share your toys with your friends. You can't keep them all. Let's just all play together. Something happens when we grow up and get our money. We keep it all. We're defined by how much we own, how much we can acquire, whether you're a collector or an artist. And I think this is breaking down a bit, that conversation. I've actually met a client and asked her to participate. And she would have done it, but she just didn't understand. It wasn't even at her. She couldn't get it. But this is really kind of a cool part of it.
Well, one aspect about that when you're using the old financial infrastructure is you're going to have to trust that someone is going to submit someone's going to take care of the money left on the table. And traditionally, that's where things get gray. And, but with the infrastructure directly programmed into the art, we all get to focus on just being humans, and the money moves itself.
Exactly. Through the smart contract.
Provenance is proven, funds are proven and sent all automatically, and we just get to be there and enjoy the good feelings of looking at the art, participating with the community, and looking at how it's benefiting, the people that we have decided this is where the surplus is going to go because we care about this cause.
Well said. But the surplus is created by creating more clients. That's the thing. We talk about audience. So that's, for me, what motivates me. That young man who stood up on the stage with me in Augusta, who talked about the teen center and his blown out sneakers and his old jeans and talking about how much he cared about having a place like that to go to because United Way contributes to keeping it open, the lights and the heat and the facility, how much he appreciates the meals, the clothes, and how much he appreciates the walks in the woods, but more so a safe place to go. So that boy has to be taken care of. That means I got to give up something. We have to find more people to buy these things because we need more percentages. It's a motivator in a different kind of way. It's not because I need a bigger house or a pool in the backyard, which would be motivating me to sell more paintings.
I mean, and then you look at the shining example that those two kids were. I can't even imagine getting up in front of 150 people at age 12 to be humble enough to be like, hey guys, I really need this, and these guys help me and make my life better. And it's done through this organization.
And Prakash, I'll let you talk in a minute. I'm talking a lot, but what's important about that? You guys came up to that speech. You memorialized it. You saw it with me. We together know what we're talking about. When I'm bringing that boy up, otherwise it'd be an abstraction. So we've collectively have a reason to work hard to get a bigger audience. I've got a reason to take a haircut. You've got a reason to take a haircut. We're all going to take a haircut to have more utility.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we wouldn't get it.
Right.
Okay? When I was a kid, this is a great example. When I was a kid, my dad had a gas station. There were 8 kids and 2 parents. So at supper, it was a big table. My dad sat at one end, I sat at the other end. And my sister was in there. My mom was, I vividly remember this. My mom was at the stove bringing something over to the table. My sister Kathy says, Mom, I've been invited to the prom and I'd like to go. My mom said, Kathy, that's great. I'll make you a dress. Kathy said, can I get a store-bought one this time? And my mom says to my father, Red was his name. Red, can we afford it? Red says, I don't know, son, to me, because I'm working with him. You think we could get enough money for that dress? I said, if we finish the transmission by Thursday and we get the tires for the Washington Post truck paid, we'd have enough money, I think, because we had to buy gas every week. So we had to have that money first. What I'm getting at in this, and then we said, sure. But my sister, if she didn't get the bought dress or had to have a mom-made dress, she wouldn't have been upset because she was in on all the transaction. Nobody's withholding anything. That's a family dynamic that I've admired in my family and I think about all the time that I don't have in mine. So that's what we've created right here with this NFT utility thing. When we're talking about that boy, those 2 kids that came up, we want to make sure they have enough money for their place. If we can help, that's what I mean. We can't solve their problems. We're doing this together in the same way we're talking about, do we get a store-bought dress or does mom made one? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does.
It touches us, right?
Right.
So we're going to think a little harder. We're going to make an extra phone call. We're going to make this damn thing work. We're going to figure it out. Otherwise, if it's just for money, it's not the same thing.
No, it's completely not. It gives purpose.
And you get up a little earlier, you think a little longer, make a call you wouldn't make.
Right. Well, I think we're in a really special place because we're able to apply purpose into a smart contract. So we're doing it right.
And fine art and people. See, it's not a computer. It's not a computer. A computer doesn't give a damn.
Right.
It just doesn't care. I care. I care that my art looks good. You care that I make good art. Mm-hmm. We care that the people who buy it want to buy something just not incidental. They want to know I have some heart in it, something real. That is where this new artist participation lives. It's not better or any different. It just lives differently than Bored Apes.
Yeah. So where are we going from here? Let's let everybody kind of know that where we're at and what's our timeline leading up until the end.
I'm going to just list because we got to get off this thing here and get to work. We're going to try to do a new release November 1st. We're going to try to have a meeting at the greenhouse of these young people we've met, or these people we've met who are into the crypto world. Let's see what we got.
Well, we're actively searching for utility that we're going to apply into our smart contract.
This is really important, really important. We got to educate the people that we want to give these funds to, this utility, how to accept it.
Right.
They don't have wallets. Okay, so they can't accept it. So your job, Prakash, is to meet with somebody, sit down and say, we want to do this for you. And this is what we need from you. We need a contract so you can accept these funds going forward. And we'll always try to make you part of it in some percentage. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. Now, that's taking the community and growing it another step.
Yeah, for sure. Because
when you meet with these people, when you guys go, or I have to go with her, whatever, Liz Moss is going to make the introduction, brings her in. The head of the United Way in Portland will be there with her staff. You'll be instructing them. we're just growing circles, more circles, further and further out around this dynamic. And bigger community, bigger understanding. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, really cool.
So yeah, a couple upcoming meetups. We'll have one here. What else is on that list?
An NFT release, we're going to experiment with a small NFT release of 9 or 10 or 11 images from some subject. I was thinking we call it dark waters, fish underwater, ships sinking, sharks, just some cool things.
Awesome.
And we release quick, make a little utility, make a little cash, because let's face facts, we need money. I mean, we're not above making money. That's got to be memorialized too. October 21st, 2022, we need some cash. Okay, let's face it. I'm out big time. I'm hurting. And so, that's not saying because, not Santa Claus, for God's sake. I'm not Robin Hood. I want this to work. I want it to create. I want to get paid for my work. We're professionals.
Right.
I want to feel good about that and give some of it too.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be sustainable.
That's right. It's not a charity.
Yeah.
And I don't have the endowment
But we are applying utility, which will go to nonprofits and impact the world in a better
that
way.
can. But the thing is, most important, it's like being a father. It's taking care of your kids is my job. But you got to stay alive. You got to have a good job. You can't fail. So you stay up late figuring out a good deal, a reason to put your months into work, because you got to come home with some bacon. You got to be able to feed it. So that's a drive. It's a drive I learned when I was single. I didn't give a damn. What I care? Buy one less beer, or get to do top shelf at the bar next week. What the hell did I care, right? I just didn't care. Money meant absolutely nothing to me. I could be very brave. When you have kids, you got to make. If I'm going to spend 6 months, I better do something with that 6 months. It just can't just go float around. So I got this that's my instincts as a dad and an artist, is to make it work. Because my art is kind of like my family too. If I screw up, I don't have any money to make any more. And I've been there. That's a sad place when you're kind of out of cash, can't buy supplies, you lose your audience. You got to rebuild a certain way. So yeah, we're good guys. We've really worked something really terrific out here.